John Boehner is letting it go to a final vote, up or down, indicates that he's confident that it will get through. Now, Boehner, as Speaker, actually doesn't have the best record of knowing what kind of support he's got within his own caucus. He was humiliated on that a couple of weeks ago when on his so-called Plan B. But he seems to be pretty confident this time around, so we can be pretty confident, but we cannot be certain until it actually passes, because there seem to be a lot of Conservative Republicans who are very upset about this. Not to mention that there are a lot on the progressive side of the Democratic Party who also aren't very happy about it, and their support also can't be counted on. So it looks like they think that they can get a coalition of more moderate Democrats and more moderate Republicans to support it. Hopefully they can, but it's not a certainty until it actually happens.
OK, well, we'll certainly be watching it, and the market is seeing a bit of optimism come in, or obviously some buying out or selling out of that typically safe haven US dollar, pushing our currency higher, and certainly those Asian bourses ticking into positive territory as well. As far as the equity markets go, it looks like a good deal that it's going to happen.
Yes, the market seems to be responding pretty well to it. It's interesting to think back to last year during the debt ceiling negotiations, how overall the markets actually reacted to that crisis, which, you know, resulted in Standard & Poor's downgrading US credit in a fairly relaxed way. It didn't actually really affect the price of US Treasuries very much. So markets seem to take a more relaxed approach to this than perhaps political observers, the media, Congress itself. The market always seems to have faith that the government will eventually be able to sort these problems out. But I don't know how many more of these crises the market will actually bear. And let's not forget that with this deal that they've cut, they're putting the sequester off by 2 months. So they're just kicking it down the road again.
That was going to be my next point, because as much as the tax cuts are averted right now, and also those spending cuts, or the tax hikes, I should say, and the spending cuts averted, how and where is the government going to get the money from to actually continue that level of spending and actually meet its debt obligations without, and we know the debt ceiling, and that needs to be raised sometime soon. Timothy Geithner tinkling the books a little bit and allowing potentially 2 months in terms of that. But still, it's an issue that's not being faced.
It's a major issue. The thinking on this from the Democratic Party has always been that economic growth has to start first, and then we can start thinking about the deficit. So we have to fully get out of the recession and its aftermath first, then start thinking about the deficit. And people, even to the left of the Democratic Party, like Paul Krugman, just really urge the Democrats not even to think about the deficit at all, that it doesn't matter, that people are continuing to lend the US at the same fairly low rates, and we don't need to worry about the deficit until the economy is back on track. So that's Democratic thinking. Once we have economic prosperity again, then we'll be able to pay it off. Republicans obviously have a completely different view.
Will, of course, the cuts to interest rates and the pledge to keep them low now in unprecedented ground and new territory linked to that labour force number, will that be enough to keep this growth rate going higher? Because regardless of the issue, I mean, we still need a growing economy to get out of this recession before the debt and that side of it can be addressed, as you're saying.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. As you say, historically very, very unusual that a central bank would be looking at an employment target. And, I mean, Geithner seems fairly confident about the prospects of being able to achieve this. The recovery has been continuing, albeit slowly, and I think one of the reasons why Obama was so desperate to cut a deal now, so much so that he really departed from his former promise that tax rates would go up on everyone over $250,000 is he was desperate not to have any interruption to that economic recovery and that employment recovery that seems to be happening. He was really worried that if the fiscal cliff was seriously breached, then that would jeopardise that entire recovery.
Certainly a lot of the big corporates, the likes of Google, Microsoft and the like, Apple indeed, Coca-Cola, pushing forward. Growth is happening despite these economic woes in the world's biggest economy. Some mentioning earlier that I was talking to about the fact that this might just be the creative ingenuity of some of the people and the minds in these corporations. Why can't the government take on a similar approach and actually, like, I guess, you know, capitalise on the situation that is in front of them?
Well, the United States government is not designed to be dynamic or innovative. It's designed to be a conservative
But essentially they are
institution.
attributable to their shareholders or voters to a degree.
Yes, but if you look at, for example, the number of Conservative representatives who are in districts that Mitt Romney won, there are only 12 Republican representatives who are not in heavily Conservative districts right now. Now, those electors are going to put them back in almost certainly no matter what they actually do. What they have to worry about is winning their own party's primary. And that's why they're prepared to go extreme, they're prepared to take hostages, and they do it without fear of getting punished by the voters. They're worried about being punished by their party.
So they're not at all in a situation where they are potential swingers. This scenario in the US isn't going to change how an American votes.
I don't think it's going to change it very much. I mean, it's not going to change it as much as the situation they have to worry about with their own party primaries. And that is a really serious problem in terms of getting anything done.